6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And if you would, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you'll remain standing for the invocation, please.
Lord, we come to you with gratitude for the beauty and abundance of this place we call home. Thank you for the gift of the rain that refreshes our land. Please watch over us as we go about our lives, safeguarding us and our loved ones with each and every step. Open our eyes and hearts to the needs in our community. Guide us to be compassionate and generous and ready to lend a hand whenever and however we can. As we gather tonight, bless our meeting with respect, understanding, and a shared purpose. Help us make decisions that uplift and strengthen our community. And as we await the results of our national election, help us remember that no matter the outcome, we are deeply blessed to live in this great nation, built on the foundations of freedom and justice by your guiding hand. Amen.
All right, next up on the agenda is to consider the approval of meeting minutes for the October 15th, 2024 open meeting and executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then next up is Jeff with the 3-month recap.
All right, good evening, everybody. A little bit of bad news is they've only given me an hour for my part of the presentation tonight. All right. Okay. We got some really big topics to talk about tonight, presenting the budget tonight, some other things. So we're going to go through this fairly quickly. I always say that. So I've gone back, since this is a end of a quarter, financial town hall's different. We always go line item by line item because it's very important to see where we stand in absolutely everything. This is going back to kind of a summary recap. All of these slides, the blue bar graph is going to be our current year actual. The orange is going to be our current year budget, and then the gray bar is last year's actual. So starting with revenue, initiation fees, there's never going to be any variance there. We're still taking 2 per month for the operating funds. Everything else goes into reserves. Over in the middle, you have golf. So even though we had the 1.9% increase, you see that we're a little bit behind last year. You think, how can that be? I'm going to tell you. So through the month of July, we had 52 inches of rain. According to the Pellucid Golf Report, in this area, we had 21 fewer playable days of golf versus last year. So the fact that we're even in the neighborhood of last year is a really good thing. You see that we are above budget, so I look for that to continue to be strong heading into next year as well. Over to the right, we have our other column. We got... let's see, we got RV, short-term rental, citations, fines, interest, all that good stuff. So you see that we are well above budget. Most of that's from three items. RV storage is up $10K, interest revenue is up $10K, and citations and fines is up $7. Now you see that we had $285 actual dollars last year through 9 months. Remember, we had this long discussion last year about that. We had $60,000 in what I say fake money. That's probably shouldn't be saying stuff like that. But it was the collection fees. Remember, we had to take these really old accounts and take them back through the appropriate 209 process of collections. We had to put all these different collection fees on all of those accounts, added up to $60,000, which obviously we have not seen one penny of. That's why I call it a little bit of fake money. So that's what's skewing that revenue column over there. On the next slide, we have our dues on the left-hand side. you see that we're pretty much right on, within what? What is that? $40. We're within $40 of being right on budget, so that's awesome. We are a little bit above last year. We had the 1.91% increase in dues, but we also increased how much we were transferring over to reserves by 0.5%. So that's the net that you'll see there. And then the total, again, we're right on budget for total revenue. Again, that $60,000 in collection fees kind of skews last year's total versus this year's. All right, moving on to expenses. First department, security. You'll see that we are a little bit below budget, but not much on payroll. That's because we have been mostly fully staffed this year. You can see last year we were considerably understaffed throughout most of the year. It was a struggle to get people. Moving over to the right-hand side, we've got the expenses. You can see our expenses are just a little bit more than last year, not a whole lot. We are still under budget for this year. It's considerable. We're about $35,000 below budget on expenses. That's a little bit of a misnomer because a big chunk of that $17,000 is for upgrading our server that takes care of the gates. We are still planning on doing that this calendar year. We just haven't been able to finalize that yet. So that's money that will be spent. We were $8,000 below budget on the Deer project, and we were about close to $4,000 under budget on medical equipment. That's because we didn't have to purchase some AEDs that we thought we were going to. They were provided by the fire department, so that was very worthwhile. Next department, maintenance. All right, so let's take a close look at this payroll on the left-hand side. We are not only well below budget on as far as budget, but we're even below where we were last year. And we actually had a cost of living increase. So how can that be? So there's two things at play here. We have been short a person for most of this year. In fact, I think at one point we were short 2 people. It wasn't for a very long period of time, but we were short 2 people. But that's still not enough to take care of that. One of the things you have to remember, well, I don't know that we've ever talked about this. So this is important for that y'all understand how we operate around here. Every department has job descriptions, job positions, pay scales attached to those. So we have replaced there's been quite a few people that left that were highly qualified. They were in operator classes, they had their CDL, things like that, and so they were in a higher job position, earning accordingly a higher wage rate. It's been so hard to find people. At some point, Jeff, our maintenance manager, he just needs some bodies. And so a lot of those people have been replaced by people that are not as qualified, so they don't qualify for that higher pay rate because they don't fit that job description. So those two things together show you that we do operate actually like a business here. I know that comes as a surprise, but we do try to run this place as a business. On the right-hand side, expenses, we're way below budget, and the reason why, you see the start of it. You see that we're replacing the split rail fence along the main entrance. So that fence project is $90,000. We will be spending that. We just have not been able to do that. We're about a month behind. We really thought we'd be further along than we are right now. So it's a little bit of a timing issue. $22,000 for landscaping. That's a big project we have planned around the restaurant and the front area between the restaurant and the parking lot. That's all getting kicked off here within the next week or so. So that's money that's going to be spent. $13,000 in drainage and erosion projects that we just haven't got to. The rest of it is pretty much just, we're just below budget, and that's a good thing. All right, moving on to golf maintenance. A little bit below budget on wages there on the left-hand side. We were shorthanded early in the year. For the most part, we've been fully staffed there, except for the fact that we did not have our summer help this year, where John was not able to. We always hire a couple of part-time positions, seasonal help, during the growing season, and we could not find those this year. So we've got a different plan in place for next year. The right-hand side, the expenses for golf maintenance, quite a bit under budget. We are $11,000 of that is sand, seed, and sod, and we are going to be spending a good chunk of that. Fertilizer is below budget, $5,000. $8,000 below budget on electricity. Why? What did we talk about earlier? 52 inches of rain. Thank you. You win a prize. So that pump that takes care of our irrigation system, it uses a lot of electricity. So we obviously have not had to use it as much, definitely during the first 7 months of this year. You can see a big disparity between what we spent actually last year and this year, and that's because we also replaced that fountain earlier this year. That was a $20,000 expenditure to get that thing fixed. Well, actually, it wasn't the whole thing. It was about 15 of it. The other 5 was just a lot more repairs on equipment around there. Moving on to Pro Shop. Pro Shop's boring. There's not a whole lot going on in the Pro Shop. On the expense side down there, we are $4,000 below budget on buildings. We were planning on trying to, we needed to fix the Pro Shop in the fact that late in the day, even though those windows are tinted, it would get to the point where it'd be 80 degrees inside. That AC system would be running nonstop, and it wouldn't get below 80 degrees. We weren't sure what we were going to do. Again, Jeff, our maintenance manager, came up with a really good solution that we thought we would try first, and it looks like it's a good fix. So it didn't cost much to do it, so that's the reason we're seeing that savings right there. Moving on to recreation. Again, the left-hand side, we were about $3,500 below budget on wages. Again, rain. If it's raining, we send our people at the pool home. No reason for them to sit there when we don't have any people in the pool itself. Right-hand side, expenses, about the same as last year as far as expenditures go. To budget, we're quite a bit under. A large part of that is that fact that we did not get the fitness equipment until just recently. We had planned to get it a little bit earlier in the year. And a few other things across the board, buildings, lakes, water. Again, we're under budget on water because we didn't have to fill up that pool as often as we needed to. All right, moving on to the restaurant. This is zoomed in because we don't have a whole lot of disparity, so it looks like there's bigger things. That you're only talking $5,000 from lowest to highest point there, so everything's pretty close to being on budget. Just wanted to point out one thing. The electricity, we're below budget, almost $2,000 on electricity this year at the restaurant. And then as far as last year goes, it was kind of an up and down. We're $4,000 under, but we're $4,000 less than last year on utilities, but then we're $4,000 over on equipment, $4,000 over on insurance, and $2,000 over on buildings compared to last year. All right, moving on to administration. The big disparity you see on the left-hand side as far as payroll goes is the director of ops position has been vacant for all but 1 month, 2 months? Yeah. So, I'll let Adam speak to that more later. On the right-hand side, expenses, we're below what we spent last year, and we're below budget quite a bit. 28,000 of it is collection fees that we have not spent because we kind of put our collection process on hold. We've talked about that before. And also under budget about $7,000 on buildings. All right, moving on to human resources. The payroll for human resources, I say this over and over, that we don't have a payroll strictly for human resources. This is our group insurance plans that we have for all of our employees. So you see that we're well below budget, not that much over from last year. We have fewer participants, again, because a couple years ago we changed where we're no longer paying 100%. We're paying a good chunk of it, but the employee does have to make a conscious decision. Do I want to spend a few dollars of mine to have insurance? So that's helped as far as that goes. And then the other thing that was really big this year, we had a good claims year last year. So our renewal, which happened in September, no increase. We got the same rate we got last year. You ever heard of that? This is exactly. All right, moving on to the multi-department. I really got to come up with another name for this. This is just stupid, multi-department. I'm the one that came up with it, so I'm stupid. All right, on the left-hand side, their expenses, we are pretty much in line with what we did last year, a little bit over budget. We're $15,000 over budget on corporate compliance. We've been doing quite a bit. A lot of that has to do with looking at the common land transfer from Silverleaf. That had a lot to do with it. We're actually $16,000 under budget on legal, though, so those two pretty much offset one another. Our liability went up, and because we had to have a couple of extra special elections, our election costs are up over what we had budgeted. Depreciation, obviously, is right on budget. The difference between last year and this year is the updated depreciation schedule that we get straight from our auditors. All right, and that'll take us to the leases. You see we're $700 below budget. You know, shouldn't that be exactly on? Yes, it normally is. We had a old $700 credit towards our cart lease. So that's the reason why there's a little bit of a difference there. You can see that we have quite a bit more on leases than we had last year, about $18,000 more on leases. So bottom line breakdown is, so far through 9 months, we've spent $3.2 million on expenses this year. This point last year, we'd spent $3.1. So the difference, the exact difference is $105,100, which is a 3.3% increase. That's pretty good. That's even with a couple of extra things that we decided to do this year. So we're doing a really good job of keeping expenses in check and still getting things done across this ranch. So I've done this slide before, the pie chart showing you how your expenses, how the expenses break down by percentage across. We have basically 10 different pieces of the pie. The biggest one is security. 24 cents of your dollars goes to security. 14% goes to maintenance, golf maintenance, and admin. Another 10% goes to the multi-department. Human resources takes 8 cents. Pro shop and leases take a nickel each. Recreation, 4 cents. And restaurant, a whopping 2 cents out of every dollar that you give us goes to the restaurant, with how we're operating it right now. So I thought I'd take this one step further. I went to Adam and I said, "Hey, Adam, would this be a good idea?" And he said, "Hey, Jeff, yes." So we actually wanted to show you the breakdown. So right now you're paying $159.76 a month, okay? Don't care if it's a check or bank draft or credit card. Every month when you make that $159.76 payment, this is how it breaks down. Security gets $38.34. Maintenance, admin, and golf maintenance each get $22.37. The multi-department gets $15.98. Human resources, $12.78. Leases and pro shop each get $7.98. Recreation, $6.39, and then the restaurant, a big whopping $3.20. So I think that hopefully really brings to light how we spend our money around here, how we spend your money around here. So this is pretty standard. These percentages really haven't changed much over the last several years. All right, let's move on to our board restricted fund update. Top line there, dam repairs. We decided, the board and Adam decided that we're not going to be spending anything on the dam repairs. That $50,000 was really meant for once TCEQ gave us a green light to move forward with the project that we have to take care of the seepage issue. That would basically be the engineering schemes and requests for proposals, all that kind of thing. That's not going to happen because TCQ basically has just forgotten about us. I don't know if that's ever going to change. So we put that on hold. Facility renovations, that's complete, $29,079 on a budget of $30,000. The deck mower, that's complete, $20,379 on a budget of $23,000. The road paving came in about $10,000 less, $414,851. Holly Hall generator, that is still in process. The budget was $65,500. We have spent $50,801. That was basically a deposit, which is the cost of the generator itself. Doesn't include the installation. or the propane tank that'll go with it. As anybody who's tried to buy a generator, you know how far out they're operating. So I don't know that that's going to change before the end of the year. It may be next year before we actually see the generator itself. The F-350 truck is complete. Came in $47 below budget. The golf maintenance, the tractor, John did well on that. Came in almost $8,000 below budget. Common area enhancement, kayak launch, Section 3 improvements. We put those 3 things on hold. Patrol vehicle, you would think that's complete. We still have a little bit of expense. We have not got the invoice yet for putting the lights on. That's the truck and the registration and all the graphics, but we have yet to get all the equipment installed on that truck. And then gate generators. We're kind of in a holding pattern right now where we've been going back and forth with ABDI. We're looking at having standalone generators at this side in Section 3 and Section 6. In case the power goes out, the gates can continue to operate. So we're still in a holding pattern on that. We're hoping to have that done before the end of the year. All right, last thing to talk about here as my hour draws close. Collections report. So I went ahead, I wanted to do it a little bit different this year. So I did it exactly from last year this time to this year. You can see that the 30-day and 60-day are much better. Our, what you would call our current aging is doing a lot better. 90 days is up, not a whole lot, but a little. So that's all decent news. The bad news is down there toward the bottom. The total amount in collections from September last year to September this year has gone up $264,000. Now remember, about 60 grand of that are those collection fees that we had to put on, but that's still 200 grand that we've gone up in 12 months. That's number of accounts that have gone into collections in the collection process. So we've got some different plans this year. We've got a new attorney group working with us on collection process. Adam's very excited about the change. He's told me a little bit about it, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that we can make some headway on some of this. So I will open up to any questions anybody might have about strictly financials right now. Just finances, nothing else. That comes later in the program. Could you come up to the microphone? This is for the people on the recording, so they'll be able to hear later. We can hear you, but on the recording they can't.
Most of you guys
Hey,
know
wait,
me
Pepper
as Pepper.
and section.
Section 4.
Thank you.
Just a quick question, and I want to thank you guys for your service, all of you. But in most, I notice how you break it down, and it doesn't show, to me, it doesn't show a true cost of labor. You have a human resource over here, and you have administration over here, and then you have maintenance separated, but each one of those departments have labor involved with them, correct? Right. And when I look at most P&Ls, they show the total expense of labor. And I think that's our number one expense here is our labor and our administration.
It's about
expense.
45%.
Right. And it kind of distorts it. Is there a way of, I understand that like equipment and maintenance in the future, those are projects, and the roads are projects that I'm sure that you guys all agree on. But to actually take a look at the major impact of running this organization, labor in itself, including human resource and insurance for those employees and the liabilities, all should be, and Social Security, to match funds and whatnot, should be all kind of.
So let me address that. So payroll taxes are included in each of the departments. The only thing that's not at this point would be their health insurance plan. That's it. That's the only thing. So one of the things we may not show it to you, but I can tell you every year the board and the general manager look at a fully loaded wage report for each individual employee. We go through everything. before they consider any kind of cost of living increase or any kind of merit increases. So that is taken into account when they're looking at that evaluation.
But we don't see the total impact, the labor cost on these figures. We have it kind of developed into departments.
So each department has their salaries, wages, overtime, payroll tax. Like I said, the only thing that's not there in each department is the cost of health insurance. That's it. Everything else is already in the departments. So if you go, do you ever look at the financials online?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so you can basically look at, well, no, that wouldn't be a good way to, because now that it's a choice by the employee on whether or not we don't have the same number of people in each department taking care of it, taking part of it. So, yeah, it's something we could look to do in the future. Remember we changed this 2 years ago now, Stacy, that we got out of like dumping everything into admin and getting everything to all the different departments. I think we do a pretty good job of showing how each department has almost everything included in it. Their portion of utilities, their portion of liability, property insurance, workers' comp, all of that is in each of the departments. So workers' comp it's not in payroll, it's shown as one of their expenses, workers' comp insurance.
But it's all part of our organization. Each department is all part of Holly Lake. So I understand that, but the overall labor cost is part of Holly Lake that we expend. It doesn't matter what departments.
Right.
But it doesn't show the total labor cost that we have out.
So you'd like to have a separate report showing
Total expenditures for labor, like most businesses does, and it breaks administration cost, labor cost, our insurance cost for that. That's how most corporations do it. And then you have your maintenance and your expenditures of maintenance, so you have the budgets. And then you have your lease equipment, blah, 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 and the cost, actually segregated cost of, for instance, what's needed for the golf course, from fertilizers to the cost of watering equipment to the new equipment, and the depreciation schedules. That's basically how P&Ls that in my lifetime have been shown. And I want to thank the board for what you guys do. Thank you.
All right, anybody else on anything?
Hi, Randy Brock from Section 2. I want to echo Pepper's comment about I appreciate all of your service for Holly Lake Ranch. To Pepper's point, I think one of the things would be helpful too for us is to see a head count for each department. We see the dollars, but we don't have a head count. How many people does it take to operate maintenance or golf maintenance or whatever it might be? Would be helpful for people to visualize. To the point on the collections, $1.2 million is a significant amount of money. Are these disputed claims, number one? And number two, are we paying people to collect, or are they doing a collection-based commission when and only when they collect the money?
Okay, so the second part of that equation is that's against the law. You cannot collections cannot be done on a contingency basis.
Well, they used to be. I'm old.
Right, exactly. They changed it. 209 changed it where it is against 209 to be able to use a commission or a contingency fee based collections process. You have to go through the process. You have to charge the fees up front. You have to pay your fees to whoever your collection agent is up front, and then if you get it back, great. That's the reason why we had all those fees that we charged, and we haven't, even though we had to show it as income, we haven't seen anything from it.
Right.
So, and then the second part of your question was, I'm sorry.
Um,
So yeah, I got it. I remember. So,
I told you I'm old.
me too. So most of these accounts are extremely old, and I'll be quite honest on a lot of these accounts. We have no idea how they got to where they are. There's going back so far. There's not really that great of records.
So we don't
No,
know if they're disputed or not.
there's not really anything in dispute. No, okay. It's just a lot of these accounts, what they owe us and the lot that they have are completely way upside down. That lot, we couldn't even take it back because they not only do they owe us a ton of money and it's not worth anything, they also owe the county a ton in back taxes as well.
Okay, so we're going to get to a point where we either write it off or we take action.
And that's what we're doing with the new law firm that we have working on this. Is they're going to be doing an analysis for us on which ones we should go after, which ones we should not. We should leave alone, possibly write off. Okay. Exactly. So yeah, our the bigger issue I think we have with our financial statements is that a lot of the income, a lot of times, is overinflated because of the AR. We do a big, every year, which we just did, again, we have a audit every single year, a full audit. We don't do reviews. We do a full audit every year. And so we kind of reset everything each year after the audit. They let us know this is how much we need to write off in order to get our financial statements in more true in line with what can really be collected.
All right, thank you.
Yes. Oh, yeah, well, that's not up to me. That would be up to the board and Adam. I'm sure they'll take that into, it's election night, so I'm going to make a political statement. They're going to take that under advisement. So, real quick, I'll give you some head. So, security, 18 people. Ranch maintenance is 9. Golf maintenance is 8. Pro shop, full-time pro shop, 3. Recreation, 0. Admin, 7. Right?
7,
Yeah.
yes.
There you go.
And
don't
we
know.
talked about that.
I got so many numbers going through my head right now. So yeah, we usually stay right around 50 total employees on the ranch. So, all right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your attention.
All right, next up is the current focus and then the 3-month future focus, and Adam will be handling that for us this evening.
Sure is good to see everyone. I feel like a millennial up here with like screens all over the place. Yeah, I'm not, but yeah. Randy, to your point about how many employees, I think it was last year at one of the open meetings we talked about the organizational chart. I'm happy to send that out again, and it's broken out basically by function of how many folks do we have in each department, who falls under the hierarchy of who reports to who, does each other's performance reviews, so on and so forth. I'm happy to share that at any point. I think, I know I've sent it out in the past, but I just made a note over there to send that out again. So we're happy to do that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go, maybe. Sorry, we're trying to save dues so we don't have somebody doing this tonight. All right, so our current focus, let's talk about the budget. So bottom line up front, I hope everybody had an opportunity to go and review some of those, or review everything that was sent out a couple of weeks ago at this point. But in essence, what Social Security is estimating or is already approved at this point is a 2.5% cost of living increase. What that means for you guys, the board has voted and or has approved the draft version of this, and the proposed increase is 2.504. So right at standard of cost of living. I know folks will say, well, you're taking exactly what I've got coming in, going out, but in actuality, it's not. So when you look at standard cost of living, and this is from the Social Security Administration, but what a standard Social Security payment would be, your estimated increase is about $50 per payment. What that equates to for your dues at 2.504 is $4 a month. So you're still positive $46. So it's not an apples to apples thing, and I don't control cost of living, but maybe one of these days they'll increase a little more. So $4 a month, it's a $48 annual increase, and again, it's 2.504. Why the 04? To make it an even $4. Wrap it up in there. So big changes you're going to see as we go through this. So other proposed increases, Jeff spoke to this. Last year we increased our transfer to reserves. We're doing the same thing this year, and you'll see the focus, which we'll talk about, but savings. So we are increasing our transfer to reserves from 3.5% to 8%. So that is a significant increase in savings to you all. And increasing the initiation fees from $5,000 to $7,500. So I get it. So there's a couple of ways to look at this. You could increase your dues to compensate for those that want to be part of your community. Or you could ask those that want to be part of your community to help take care of the roads and the maintenance and the amenities that you enjoy and all of those things. So it's got to come from someplace, and the two primary baskets we have are initiation fees and dues. Our third category is the collections. We've got some STR, some short-term rentals, some RV rentals, things of that nature. But generally speaking, the two primary pots are those two. So as we go through this, so what's our revenue look like? So you'll see that, I guess your left side is the approved budget, what our projected totals are. Again, this is just a projection. We do our best to project, as with any budget, and then what the 2025 proposed budget is. So this year, and it seems odd, so our total approved budget last year was 3.7 million, and this year it looks like our proposed budget is 3.6. Well, how can that be? If you're increasing the dues, I go back again to that increase in transfer. So what we're looking at here is the total maintenance dues minus that transfer. And we'll get into that on this next slide. We'll break that down for you so you can see exactly what the increase in transfer is going to be. Initiation fees, we take two per month, two full initiation fees per month of $5,000. So that increase to $180 that you see is the accommodation for the $7,500. The excess in that will then be transferred over into reserves again, and on this following slide, I'll show you that. Total golf sales, you can see an increase there. It's roughly 10%. So we look at what the golf course costs to operate, what it makes. So 10% was the proposed increase for those things, and we'll go through that in detail as well. Restaurant, not a big change in anything in the restaurant. One other thing I want to mention with golf is we have increased savings in golf as well. So the golf reserves, it was $9,600 this year. It's going to be $25,000 next year. So when we start looking at some of these long-term projects that need to be addressed, the irrigation is the biggest one on the golf course. That's a substantial investment to replace that irrigation system. So let's start saving now, spending less so that we can take care of some of these future needs. Other income, you'll see a little bit of an increase there. This is primarily due to STR. We've got an increase in interest income as well. So with an additional transfer over into reserves, we'll realize some gains on our interest income as well. So the total revenue is 4.563309. So this is the breakdown. So your property dues, if we looked at just what the property dues would be with the 2.504% increase, it would be just a little over $4 million. Now we look at our transfer to reserves this year, $139,000. Again, that was at 3.5%. When we increase that to 8%, now you're transferring $327,000 into the bank, into reserves. So that makes our net profit that we kind of see and put towards projects at 3.7. When we look at our initiation fees, there's a couple of different things going on here as well. Last year, typically what we would do is we would factor 92. Our 92 was our factor. We would get 92 full initiation fees per year to make our requirements. Looking at the economy last year, looking at the rise in interest rates, we backed that down to 85. We are going to meet it this year, which is positive news. When we look at what's going to happen next year, Fed is projecting a couple of, actually a quarter point per quarter reduction in interest rates. We'll see what happens tonight and how that impacts whether fruition or not. But again, this is our best projection based on what we can see. So we've increased that back to 92. So we're going from 85 to 92, and we're also going from $5,000 to $7,500. So really what you're seeing as an income is $690,000 transferred to the capital fund because we only take those first two each month and put them into the operating, so everything in excess of that goes into the capital fund. So we'll see a net increase of $510,000 into the capital fund. All right, some general statements as we get into the operating budget here. So wages, the proposed increase for employees is 2.5%, which is commensurate with cost of living. Our general factors for utilities, 5% for electricity and 4.25% for water. Fuel, we're estimating 5% increase. Insurance, 10%. We were lucky this year in that some of our premiums actually lowered while others raised. And then when we look at cost of our employee insurance, that was a zero net gain, or deficit. So that was great. But when we look at our insurance policy renews September 1st. So we're known for 7 months, and then we're unknown for 5 months. So that's the factor there. But I think you'll see as we go through this that the focus is let's increase savings, let's reduce potential for dues increase, and then let's also limit spending. So let's start with security. I didn't go by line in these as we sent it out. I'm happy to talk by line if you would like to, but that will take us a substantial amount of time, but I'm certainly happy to have that conversation. So I've chosen some of the ones that are the biggest differences that we'll see. So buildings and grounds, you'll actually see this one is a deficit. $17,000 is what we had projected that will be spent this year for that server. So you'll see what you're seeing at the $65,000 is a bit of an artificial increase due to that one-time expenditure. The reduction are those mandatory fees that we pay to ABDI. That's for the gate access, for you all to have access coming in and anyone out, the RFID readers, any maintenance to those things, and about $12,000 for repairs. Equipment repair. Last year we bought some body cams, or actually this year we bought some body cams. So that was a little bit inflated from what you had seen in previous years. Again, it's inflated this year primarily due to a communication package. So we're getting 10 handheld radios and then 1 new base station. We do have a pretty slim pickings with our radios. The batteries are not working well. It's time to replace those. They're old and need to be updated. And then finally for training, you're going to see a little bit of an increase there. Primarily this is ammo. It's our OSS, which is our online training for a lot of our security personnel. This isn't law enforcement training, but it's more de-escalation, it's report writing, it's those things that bolster our security personnel's ability to do their job. And we've had this for a while, but that is still in there. But the main increase that you're going to see is we started factoring in our recertifications for our level 2 and level 3 officers. And Texas has instituted a new MMPI. It's a psychological background screening that's mandatory at those recertifications, which cost money. So we've factored all of that in. For maintenance, the fencing, $95,500. That is most of that is for the new fence that's going in. You're seeing it now by hole 12. It's going to extend out and then all the way down to replace the split rail fence there on the east side. It'll replace all the fencing on the west side there in the entrance area, and then section 6 and section 3 as well. Just to comment on that, the T-post will be removed. I've gotten a lot of feedback about leaving the T-posts, and we'll take those down. So that was the increase you see there. So down to $15,000 seems really, really slim. It is. Most of our categories are really slim, to be quite honest with you. But that $15,000, we still are continuing with the exterior fence. We're doing Lowesville Road this year. We intend to do along 2869 on the east side next year to finish that up, where we're putting the new pipe fence, finish that all the way down. We have a lot of exterior fence that hasn't been taken care of for decades, so we're incrementally trying to get that done. Buildings and grounds for street materials, you'll see a small increase there, about $3,000. That's primarily just due to the cost of asphalt. Wood County Asphalt was recently obtained, purchased by another company, so now they kind of have the monopoly here, and prices have went up. Jeff has done his best to go and negotiate prices with them, but nonetheless, we're still seeing an increase in that. Tree removal, I know everybody has the same issues. Removal of trees seems to come quite often, and it's expensive. So we have several. Our maintenance department does everything that they can, but if it's in danger of falling on somebody else's personal property, turning up something like that, or if it's just too dangerous, we have George come out and take them down, and then 9 times out of 10, if not 99 times out of 100, we haul that material off and down to the brush dump. Part of this will include the grinding of stumps. We've got a lot of stumps around that's starting to detract from your neighborhood, so we're going to go through and take care of some of those stumps just to increase the aesthetics of your neighborhood. Landscaping this year, we had 14.5, I believe is the number, or actually $17,000 for Whiskies. We're about ready to start that project, but it'll be a complete rehaul of all the landscaping over at Whiskies, so that is artificially inflated. More than typical because of that one project. 15.5 this year. The primary difference in that is the entrances. We're going to spend some time on the entrances and really spruce up the entrances and get them looking nice. For small tools and equipment, the increase you see there is a rotary mower. So we had went back and forth with purchasing a new rotary mower. The one that we have now has been welded upon welded upon welded, and it is well past its useful life. But the decision was made, let's not do that. We'll transfer this to a capital lease at the end of the year. So we're going to do this in operating and then transfer to capital lease at the end of the year. So you'll see that in there, and then tablets. Our maintenance trucks, so we utilize this internal task management system. Anytime one of you calls, sends us an email, we notice something, we put it into a program called ClickUp. All the maintenance personnel have the ability to see that, so we can take pictures with it, we can send maps, we can send emails, whatever it is, so that they can get out and quickly dispatch be dispatched to take care of some of these issues. Last year we fit the trucks with some basic tools so they didn't have to run, see what the problem is, run back to maintenance, get the appropriate tool. So all of them are now equipped to be able to handle most problems, but they're using their personal cell phones for it. So we're going to equip them with a tablet in each one of the vehicles. So one, they're utilizing company property to do company stuff. 2, it increases our efficiency. And then 3, we can put some additional requirements in there, like, hey, when you're done, I'd like to see a picture of that. So that will help Jeff quality control some of these things, but at the end of the day, what it's going to do is increase their responsiveness to take care of your needs. And then the last, if you look at the bottom here, so the 2025 proposed budget, $275,000, less than what we have budgeted this year. So when we talk about reduction of cost, when we talk about the increase of savings, you'll see that this is pretty consistent across the departments. So we are significantly cutting, but that also means that our ability to do some of the things around the ranch is going to be smaller. All right, golf maintenance. Draw some attention to the payroll in this one. So this is the addition of 1 additional FTE for golf maintenance. So we are adding 1 full-time equivalent to golf maintenance, so that will take them from 8 personnel to 9 personnel, and we are getting rid of the 2 seasonal workers. So there is ample work over there that can be done with another guy, and John does a pretty bang-up job with 8 folks over there for the amount of acres that they have to take care of. So we're adding one to that total for a total of 9. Cart paths, the big increase that you'll see there is $9,000 for number 18. As you're coming down 18, that cart path has a pretty significant issue with it that needs to be redone, repoured, repaved, all of that. Sand, you'll see a small increase there. Sand is expensive. My goodness, I didn't know. And there's different kinds of sand. So learned all kinds of stuff here, but what this is our normal sanding. So you've got the seasonal sanding, you've got the incremental sanding, but then every so often we have to redo our bunkers. So that's a different kind of sand, billy bunker sand, which sticks up higher on the sides so that you have a good playing surface. So we're redoing the bunkers, and then we've got drill and fill also scheduled in that. For the sod, $22,000 this year. That was largely due to the T-box expansion projects. So we're going to back that down next year, which is why you see the dramatic increase. Fertilizers and chemicals, they're just getting more expensive. So there's a very small enhancement into the treatments that John will be able to do with this, but most of that is absorbed through rising cost. And then tree removal, same with general maintenance. We've got 60 trees right now on the golf course that are in need of removal. It's just plaguing us right now. So it's a tough spot to be in. Pro shop, big difference you see there, and Jeff spoke to it, the HVAC project that we did this year, so we're decreasing that back down. For equipment repair, the big increase you'll see there is $6,000 for a new ball washer. We've had this on the list for 3 years, I think, and it's limping along. This is not the ones that you see out at the holes. This is the big commercial grade one that's behind the cart barn, so all of the driving range balls, once they're picked up, need to go over and get washed because the pickup mechanism gets them dirty. So that's for the ball washer. And then range supplies, that's just a simple increase in cost of balls. For recreation, everybody's so quiet. Wow. Yeah, can we turn on the fans? Yeah. Yeah, do you mind? Thank you. Perfect. It is warm in here. Have mercy. It's like an interrogation room with everybody. Man. All right, now we're better. Wow, all right, this is great. Okay, so building repair and maintenance. For that $16,000, we're going to increase the west side irrigation over here. We've had a systemic issue with our irrigation, so we've started incrementally increasing those things. We're going to paint or take care of the interior of the house, so that will be next on our renovation list, to take care of the interior of the house, new floors, paint, bathroom. And then we need to restain parts of the hut, particularly the deck down there needs some maintenance on it. Fitness facility, the big increase that you saw there was for the acquisition of the new cardio equipment this year. That has been transferred to capital leases, hence the decrease there. Lakes, a couple months ago we sent out an RFP. Our current lake contractor was doing well. His focus was primarily fish. And we've seen with the increase of invasive vegetation, with some of the other issues that we've seen across the lake, our needs were different than what he provided. Nothing against him. I think he provided a great service for us, but we needed some expertise in some other areas. So we've sent out an RFP. We've gotten several responses, but we're in the process of refining that. So that's the increase that you see there, is our ability to be more proactive and take care of the aquatic vegetation that we see, take care of the cyanobacteria that we had a while back, but really get aggressive about taking care of all of our lakes, not just Lake Greenbrier, but all of our lakes, and being able to create opportunities for everybody to be able to use those lakes. So that's the increase you see there. Tennis and pickleball, the big increase is Court 4, what is now the new pickleball courts. Previously, Court 4 for tennis courts is the only court that we don't have LED lights in. So we're going to increase, or we're going to do those LED lights just because when the current lights go out, it's very costly for us to have somebody come out. We have to rent a lift, get them in, so it's more cost advantageous for us just to do this now and be done with it and save some money in the long run. And finally, equipment repair and maintenance. Big one that you're going to see in this is the chairs that you are sitting in. This will be it'll be 200 recliners with vibrating functions, cup holders, and individual screens so you can see. So, I wish they would. I wish they would. So that's the big increase you'll see there. All right. Restaurant. $43,000 as compared to $6,000. So what does that get us? Flooring. We need some flooring. We need some paint. It needs to be refreshened and touched up. So we're going to take care of that in building repairs and maintenance. Equipment repair and maintenance, another dramatic increase that you're going to see in there. That's just for good old-fashioned equipment. We need to get in there at the expiration of the current lease. We need to see what needs to be fixed, what needs to be repaired, what needs to be replaced, so that whomever comes in to operate that next has a fully functioning kitchen that can provide you all the service and the atmosphere, quite honestly, that you want and need. So that's that. The total utilities, the increase you're going to see there, the current contract covers 25% of all the utilities. So that's just a rollback in of all the utilities, making the assumption that we will be responsible for those utilities. If we're not, that would be great, but I'd rather budget for it and not use it than vice versa. All right, admin. For payroll, you're going to see an increase in an FTE there as well. So this is an IT person, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but our current administrative system is Jonas. I'm sure you all love Jonas. So we've got Jonas, which is a very archived and antiquated system. We've got Lightspeed Golf for the Pro Shop. We've got ABDI for the gates. We've got Club Express for the website. We've got all these things that we pay separate fees for. And at the end of the day, I would think that as a homeowner, you would want to be able to pick up your phone or log in or see a statement and be able to do kind of everything in one spot. And if we could do that and we could save you money, that would be a win-win. So that's where we're going. Part of that includes IT. So an IT person that we can have in-house to help handle some of these things, to help handle that transition, to take all those antiquated files that we have back there. You see us, you come up and ask us a question, and we run back and we filter through and we come back and we blow off the dust and we're like, okay, let's talk. Well, we sure can be better than that, I think. So the intent would be to go back through, get all of those digitized, to assign them to a section and lot, not necessarily a person, so that we can really tie this stuff together and better understand it and better provide services for you. One of the, I'll wait on that. So that IT person serves a function there. Coupled with that, we use ACT right now for all of our IT, and their rates have risen. So if we can do it in-house and we can start weaning ourselves away from some of those things, it seems like a win-win. Buildings and grounds, you'll see a big decrease in that. For flooring, we're doing some flooring this year, which is not in the budget for next year. Credit card processing, this is another point where this may be impacted. So one of the providers that we're looking at that we're very excited about does credit card processing in-house as well. So we have a third-party credit card processor, just yet another, somebody to deal with in this whole scenario. So we may see some positive impacts there as well. For member relations, pulled this up because it seems like a big number. We increased this a little bit last year because of the events. So what this gets you, everything from porta potties at Point Park to 4th of July to fireworks to the band to the Fall Festival, the Eclipse, all of those events that we provide are all rolled into this one little thing. Postage, just getting more expensive for everybody, and then increasing potentially some of the costs for elections and things like that. And then printing, dramatic decrease here. We just recently signed a new lease with our printing company. So what that does to us, we pay a lease for the copier, and then we used to pay per copy, essentially. And it was very, very expensive, and it was going up. The new lease accommodates for all of that, rolls it all into a capital lease, and then we pay in excess of any copies that we may make. Our current quota is substantial enough that I don't know that we're going to have to be in that boat, so we've significantly reduced that. But at the end of the day, it's a net savings of zero. So we've got newer equipment, we've got more reliable budgeting purposes, and it's much faster and better. So again, win-win. And if I want to, again, pull to the bottom there, projected expenditures for the totality of the department, $201,000. This year it was $214,000. So again, we're decreasing. Human resources. Not a lot changed on here. You see the projected versus the budgeted. One accommodation that we did have to make in our projections is I don't think we're going to be lucky enough to get a 0% increase in insurance again. So you'll see that reflected in there. For job advertising, posting, it's expensive to find help. Drug testing, we get this question a lot. Do you drug test? We do. Pre-employment, everybody, pre-employment drug test, and then we do random quarterly drug tests. Employee relations, these are for things like the Christmas party, the employee Christmas party, the Thanksgiving party. We're doing an employee family day this year. We talk a lot about being a family as an employee cadre, but yet we never invite kids. We invite your spouse once, only once. So this is a way of kind of strengthening that bond, just to increase morale. So again, if you look at the bottom, 19,600 versus 20,200. So again, we're in that downward trend of expenditures. Multi-departmental, you'll see the big decrease there in computer support. Again, that's because we intend to have that IT professional here. So they're going to reduce some of that. And then we look at the Jonas replacement cost. That will be impacted by that as well. Election cost, who knows how many elections we're going to have this coming year? One? Just one. I didn't do the slide, did I? Sorry. So the 6 election costs, 6 we'll have this year. Sorry, Diane, I'm just kidding. Liability insurance, you see an increase there. 5-month increase, estimated at 10%. And then legal, we bumped that down, just believing that we're not going to need it that much. And if we do, back in 2021, there were excess funds that were set aside. They weren't spent, but they were tagged as if we needed additional legal expenses, that would be the fund that they would come from. So total expenditures, 553. And again, that's a decrease from 352. Capital leases, not a lot changed on this one. The big one that you'll see is the 2017 loader buyout. We extended that lease last year. We had the opportunity to buy it out this year, and you'll see that in board restricted funds. We could buy it out for $20,000, or we could sign a new lease for a $100,000 piece of equipment. It is still in great shape for what we use it for. We invested in some tires and things like that for it last year, so smart money says keep it, maintain it, and we'll be better off in the long run. And the other big thing that you're going to see is the fitness center equipment transferred over. Again, that was a purchase in operating that will be transferred over into capital leases. So you do see an increase there at the bottom of 226, 128 from 195. Excuse me. Mercy. Board restricted funds. So these are the projects slated for next year. The big glaring one is 245 for road paving and sealing. There was consideration on increasing that from what we had this year. But again, if we go with the let's save, let's increase our savings, things of that nature, reduce the dues increase. This gives us an opportunity to now, because we did so much this year, finish what we had for next year. We're still on track, still on budget, but it gives us an opportunity to save a little bit more. Drainage and erosion, you'll start to see this coming up as well. But our intent next year, we do our standard culvert replacements and any significant drainage and erosion projects. But we're going to get into the habit of, with a systematic approach of roadside repair, paving, roadside repair, paving. So you'll see equipment start coming out later this year, and we're doing ditch definement, roadside definement to help control the water and get it directed where it needs to be. And then once we do that, then we'll come back through and then we'll repave it. Common area improvement, this is very similar to what you'll see in common area development over in recreation and admin. And this is once the acquisition of the common areas is done, there's a whole bunch of opportunities for improving that land so that you can better utilize it. So that's the intent of those two. For golf maintenance, there's a $22,000 for a top dresser. This is for the greens. I know that there's been some questions about what is a top dresser. It's for the greens. Jeff can talk to you really deeply about a top dresser. Hole 15. It throws sand. It's a fancy sand thrower. Hole 15, pond remediation. If you are a golfer or live in that area, you'll see on the south side of hole 15, that pond is starting to eat away. We need to do something to maintain the integrity of that pond. and keep it from encroaching on areas that we don't want. The loader buyout, which we'd previously discussed, for $20,000. Security vehicle, $41,000. So this will replace 20. This will replace 20. We replaced 19 this year, so it's a 2019. And we'll replace the 2020 Ford next year. Video processing and storage. This is for the ABDI system, or our camera system that allows security to remotely monitor all of the gates, the gun range, things of that nature. Holly Hall sound system. We've got $50,000 set aside to redo the sound system here and the camera. We utilize an iPhone and upload it, and we can do better for you. Yeah. And it will also help with the acoustics or the audio in here as well. Admin software replacement. So I've alluded to it several times. There's an upfront cost for this, and then there's the continual cost. So when we look at what it costs to do data migration, integration, all of those things, it's taking what we have in Jonas, migrating that over in a systematic way, taking care of integration of our hardware that we have through ABDI and the gates, and then being able to utilize it with this. But the end point would be, if you're a phone user, you could pick up your phone, you could pay your bill, you could view a website, you could make a calendar reservation for one of the things here, you could book a tea time, you could do just about anything you wanted from that one source. The beauty of this is they're all integrated together. So at this point, we're trying to bolt on things, but this is a single company that provides all of these. So to get all that, it's about $70,000 to get that in, and then you've got the monthly reoccurring, which we would actually break even or save just a little bit of money from what we pay right now. One of the great things about this is the expansion opportunity. So being able to go to the fitness center and utilize your phone with a QR code to get in, vice carrying your little card, or getting a reservation to reserve the hall. We could activate the doors with a QR code, and 15 minutes prior to your reservation, it comes up, reminds you, and when it's your time, you can come hold that code up to the door, and you could come in. So one, keeps us from passing around a bunch of keys, but two, it also allows us to electronically monitor doors are being locked or they're not, things of that nature. And then finally, Holly Hall kitchen reno. Everything in here, minus the sound system, is almost complete, but the kitchen needs some work. So that reno would be to replace all the countertops and all the appliances in there to finalize this room. All right, so $159.76 plus the $15.24 for trash gets you your $175. So if we added the proposed due increase of $4, that takes you to $179. If you elected to pay your dues in advance, you pay them all up front. It would be $2,049.74 if that's paid by cash or check. If you're going to use a credit card, there is a fee associated with that because that third-party processor charges us a fee for you to utilize that. We are still offering the 5% discount, so that's where the $2,049.74 comes in. That is only on your dues. It doesn't apply to the trash. So if you go home and want to figure that out, that's what that is, and that's the same as it's always been. If you elect to do a debit or credit card with your full monthly payment or full annual payment, then we'll give you a 4% discount. So that is consistent with what we have done last year as well. Proposed storage rates.